Eternity's Shadow by E. Thomas Canton. Copyright 2024 E. Thomas Canton. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic or mechanical, including photocopy, recording, or by any information storage and retrieval system, without written consent from the publisher. Credits. Voices by MURF.com. Sound effects from www.freesoundslibrary.com. And additional sound effects from www.zapsplat.com and pixabay.com. Music by www.zapsplat.com and IB Audio.
Brooke's story. And many Earths have never become part of the Council either, because such worlds were not socially or technologically advanced enough. Or because contact held danger for the Council Earths or for that world's own citizens. It was no coincidence that Adams was reborn on such a world where no assassin could find her. Helen Schaefer. Octavia Wilde, The Definitive Biography Volume 1. Footnote. The Council of Earths created in the year 1 ME in the wake of the Great Interdimensional War. Its purpose was to avoid another conflict by providing a place for diplomats to meet in order to resolve issues before they became crises. Each Earth appointed ambassadors to the Council. The city of Elsincourt would house the official chambers on the world designated as Earth 1. The city's lamentable destruction during the Tenant War. Urged by noted and revered mathematician and philosopher Pandora Wilde. The role of the Council later expanded to include both relief agencies and charitable foundations for those Earths whose economies had collapsed in the wake of the plague's pandemic. Still, later, Wilde lobbied to provide ongoing assistance to any Earth that experienced crop failures or natural disasters. Debt relief would also be added, albeit years later. Laughing and giggling, I ran through the ancient pillars. Green vines with blossoming flowers crawled up the marble columns into the blue sky. I turned to glance down the marble steps behind me. My sister spoke to some well-dressed grown-ups who I'd been told were very important. They'd come a long way to talk to her. Why didn't they just phone? She watched me with a keen eye while listening to them, afraid I'd run where she couldn't see me, and get into trouble or get lost. I liked her. She looked after me, like Mom did. The marble steps of the university went on forever. They were a playground to my young self as I skipped and jumped up and down. At least I thought it would be my younger self. But when I caught my reflection in a window, I realized I must have been in my mid to late teens. Too old to consider behavior like that as acceptable. My mind jumped. I now walked through the city surrounding the university with my parents. People in long, beautiful robes of all colors walked around glorious classical-style buildings, past the most elegant murals, and centuries-old statues. It all felt familiar, and so real. I could even feel the sun on my face, and the warm marble beneath my bare feet. It felt like a fragment of a lost manuscript. No, more like the last remaining spark from the dark ages before my current life began. I don't know what happened before I woke up here. My head is a complicated thing. My life here, however, began much simpler and much more boring. I don't know how my life began. See. Simple. A monk found me on the bank of a small river in the provincial capital. I'd fallen, or someone had pushed me, off the Vatican Street Bridge over the Don River. To this day, I have no recollection of anything before coming to on the bank. I kinda remember the monk. Sort of. Maybe. I remember waking up in the hospital, where, for the first 2 days, everyone called me Jane. I know they meant Jane Doe, but a part of me kept waiting for Tarzan to come swinging in on an IV tube. Outside of a broken arm, and a bandaged gash on my forehead that hurt far worse than it looked, I checked out fine. They put my picture in the paper for someone to come claim me like lost luggage. No one ever did. For reasons they would never explain, they ordered more tests. They wanted my DNA, so they could match it with the DNA that all hospitals kept on record. It would only take a few weeks before my family and I would reunite. It would never happen. The weeks came and went. In the meantime, I decided to rechristen myself. This happened one morning when I noticed the name on the bottom of a bedpan. Adams Medical Instruments. My first thought, bedpans are seriously considered medical instruments. My second thought, I like the name Adams, but I changed it to ADIMS since people always pronounce the second A as if it sounded like an I anyway. And the second D had always been superfluous. So why not? You already know I named myself Brooke. I'll tell you the reason a little later. Because I hated the name Jane. So, moving on. Again, they took more blood, claiming there must have been an error in their sampling. The doctors made an increasing fuss over my blood samples. In fact, I'd describe them as agitated. When I asked about it, they gave me a bit of a runaround. I couldn't help but wonder why they were keeping me in the hospital at all. The only thing wrong with me remained a half-mended broken arm and a healed scar on my forehead. So, thinking it all a bit odd, I got a look at my files. Not that they would ever let me. Avoiding the security and the on-duty nurses, I sneaked, whatever, into the offices late one night and picked the lock on several of the doors. Where did that talent come from? Might I have been a thief in my previous incarnation? I kind of fancied myself a secret agent on a dangerous mission. I alone held the key to saving the world if only I could remember. Well, I have a vivid imagination. I'm not sure you can be a physicist without one. Anyway, I got into the cabinet with my file in it and took a gander. For somebody who had only been at the hospital for a short time, I had a thick enough file. The implications of what I read would haunt me for the next 10 years. Fancied myself a